You are watching Bloomberg Tech Europe. Coming up, from the job cuts at Microsoft and Salesforce to Meta's multi-billion-dollar hiring spree. AI's impact on the labour market is already being felt, but what will AI's longer-term effects be on the jobs available and how we do them? And from lifelike avatars to next-gen voice AI, meet the European innovators building the tools set to redefine the future of work. And how companies and employees can stay competitive in an AI-driven world. One founder says skill building is the key to survival.
Interestingly, and we're seeing this, the companies that are able to move fastest are not the ones spending huge amounts of money on applied AI engineers, but they're the ones who are basically saying this is an everyone problem. Right? It's not about technologists, it's actually about how do we get people in non-technology roles all in on using AI.
So we will be exploring these questions with founders and execs from leading AI firms racing, of course, to reshape the future of the workplace. Welcome to Bloomberg Tech Europe. So from factory floors to trading desks, artificial intelligence is, of course, transforming the way we all work. But is it also taking our jobs? Take a listen. Experts say millions of roles involving repetitive tasks, from clerical positions to logistics, could vanish in the next decade.
All junior-level jobs in any industry are at high risk.
But estimates of how many jobs will be affected vary widely. Goldman Sachs projects 300 million jobs could be exposed to automation over the next 10 years, with roughly 2/3 of current roles likely to be changed by the use of AI. And the World Economic Forum reckons that in 5 years' time, the proportion of work tasks performed mainly by machines will grow from just over 1/5 to more than 1/3. But what do we know about the impact that AI is already having in the workplace?
AI is doing 30 to 50% of the work at Salesforce now. And I think that that will, continue.
Earlier this year, Microsoft announced 2 rounds of layoffs affecting up to 16,000 workers, partly driven by AI efficiencies. And Amazon's CEO recently warned that AI would see a reduction in that company's total headcount, although the firm is not yet laying off staff. But it's not all one-way traffic. If you ask ChatGPT about the AI impact on jobs, it predicts the technology will also create millions of new roles in data engineering and human AI collaboration. And that same World Economic Forum report predicts AI, robotics and related technologies will add 170 million jobs by 2030. If that comes to pass, the world will have more total jobs in 5 years' time, not fewer. OK, so that's setting the stall for you in terms of some of the forecasts. Meanwhile, London-based Synthesia uses AI to create lifelike video avatars based on humans, which can be deployed in a range of scenarios, including things like customer support, sales and staff training. It is valued at over $2 billion, counts 80% of Fortune 100 companies as customers. And for a view on how their products are reshaping the labour market and the workforce, I spoke exclusively to Synthesia's co-founder and CEO, Victor Riparbelli, about the company's technology and what it does mean for jobs.
Really, what we do at Synthesia is actually very simple. It's just we help our companies deliver those messages in video instead of text. And that's very important because when you look at the online economy today, it's just very, very clear. People want to watch and listen, right? It's almost becoming table stakes now if you want to land a message with someone that has to be video and audio, especially when you look at the younger generation. The problem with that, of course, has always been that making video and audio content is much more labor intensive and much more expensive in dollars than it is to write an email to someone or, say, share a document. And so what we've done is kind of 2 things. We've invented a technology where you can make videos with AI, and we made it so easy that it's kind of like making a PowerPoint. And so what that means is that everyone can now make videos. So we've enabled all the people who used to make lots of PowerPoints and write documents to create videos. And when you look at the impact this has, it is just phenomenal. We work with companies like Zoom, for example, who are training a sales force of like 1,000 people. And the efficiency gains that they see and the reduction in cost of creating that content is just huge, right? And you talked about translation. Yeah. You've also launched an AI dubbing piece of software as well, or product. What is it? What does it do? And how do you expect that to be used and deployed in your corporate and enterprise clients' workplaces? Yeah. So translating video historically, it's been very difficult, right? Most of the time it's done with subtitles, and even making subtitles, right, is actually like a quite laborious process. Like you need to first have a transcript of the video, then you need to like sit down, translate it, upload it again, do all the timings correctly. That's a pretty laborious process. You can also do dubbing, which in some locales, especially in Europe, have been, I think in Germany, for example, a lot of films are dubbed where actually someone speaks in German over the film, right? Which to people who didn't grow up with that is very strange and definitely like really, decreases kind of the value of that content. With AI dubbing, we've made it very simple. So you simply just drag and drop whatever video you have into our system. And then what we do is we automatically transcribe the video, right? So we have all the text. We translate it with machine translation, which is by now like really high quality. We clone the voices of the speakers in that video, and then we translate to whatever language that you want to have it in, right?
It allows you to take any video, say this one from Bloomberg Tech Europe.
Welcome back to Bloomberg Tech Europe. Now, SAP's recent growth has been powered by a pivot to the cloud, with the company leaning heavily into artificial intelligence.
Then, with the click of a button, the tool translates the video into a language of your choosing, with reanimated facial expressions and lip movements. How about Ukrainian?
Вітаємо знову на Bloomberg Tech Europe. Останнє зростання SAP було зумовлене переходом до хмари, а компанія активно впроваджує штучний інтелект.
But it's essentially like a one-click way of translating video content. And it's just, now that the AI models are as good as they are across transcription, translation, text-to-speech or voice cloning and video editing as well, it's just phenomenal the results you get out, right? So you can imagine you can take all the videos you already have and instantly make them available in 12 different languages.
In 12 different languages. You're also updating, you have a next generation avatar that shows full body movement as well, that aligns with what that avatar is saying, the content of that speech. Where do you expect that to be used? What is the use case for that?
There's a couple of different things. So the first one is just increasing the kind of floor quality of all videos that are made with Synthesia. So if you look at the videos we made, 4 years ago, the avatars were not as good quality, the voice was not as good quality, still had a use in a lot of use cases, but the quality could be better, right? And all those videos that people have already been making, so all the use cases we serve today, customer support, product marketing, training, learning, etc., all those are just going to be better because the video is going to be better, right? And that's going to result in increased engagement for whoever's watching that video. So there's kind of one dimension of this just being more of what it already is, but just better. And that's very clearly a thing. The other one is that it unlocks new use cases, right? So we've always had this internal mental model of essentially like the rate limiter for the TAM is how good is the quality of the avatars and the voices, right? 4 years ago, no one would put a Synthesia video on their public-facing website. They would only use it internally because it was just a bit too janky to be something you want to show your customers. That kind of changed a couple of years ago with our models now. But as they get better and better, things like above the fold marketing, for example, will begin to be possible. And much more like customer-facing communications as well.
What will a walking, talking avatar that you can interact with and that can speak in 12 different languages, what will that mean though for jobs, the labour force and your corporate clients in terms of their workforce?
I think 100% AI will cause some kind of job displacement, right? It'd be very strange if it didn't. Every other technological wave has also caused some degree of job displacement. I'm not in the camp of thinkers who think that there's going to be like no jobs left and AI is going to do absolutely everything that we want. I think for humans, we want a purpose. We want to play status games. We want to do something that's productive. And those things may change. Maybe like doing Excel spreadsheets and doing financial modeling will be a lot less, valuable in 5 or 10 years. Maybe doing software development will be a lot less valuable in 5 or 10 years. But I still think having the ideas is going to be very valuable, right?
Which parts of the jobs market do you think are most defensible right now and which are most vulnerable?
I think jobs that rely on the human connection, right? That could be a sales job, for example. I actually think those are good jobs to have. I think things like being a product manager, for example, which is also being managing like many different stakeholders, internal and externally. And I also think being a software developer is a good job because a lot of people think that software development is about like programming. Programming is kind of the expression of it, right? But really what you learn when you study computer science is how to solve problems, how to think about problems and how to solve them, right? And you probably will be 10 times faster or maybe even more than solving those problems. But I think also the need for software will also grow, right? Like if everyone can build software really quickly, it's not like all companies are just going to stop product development or just create things at the same pace they did before. It's going to be much more competitive. People are going to be building much more features. It's going to be way more companies. So I think it's kind of, as it becomes easier, the sort of need for software also will naturally balloon, I think.
That was Victor Riparbelli, co-founder and CEO of Synthesia, speaking to us exclusively. Meanwhile, customer service is another sector seeing rapid change through artificial intelligence. PolyAI is a leading supplier of conversational AI tools that can run large parts of contact centres. Its CEO and co-founder, Nikola Mrkšić, told me that customer service jobs will go, but that AI will allow companies to offer better service.
There will be fewer of these jobs, but these jobs have been on the decline for a very long time now, right? Both internally and in BPOs, the number of people, like the attrition is really high. People quit. It's hard to bring them back in. And COVID really was the catalyst where this started happening. And it's not uncommon to see a contact center which churns 200% of their workforce in a year. So these jobs, much like think of agriculture at the turn of the 19th and 20th century, like it was going down, people were moving to cities, and we kind of knew that the jobs of the future are going to look different. I think there's pretty broad consensus that there are 3 areas where it's going to reshape the world in a major way in the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years. Customer service, which is what we do. Then you've got, I think, legal, where I think just the ability to kind of like do a lot of the work and accelerate legal work is a big area, and you have a lot of companies working on that. And then the final and most maybe counterintuitive one is software engineering, right? In that, companies have now like made major leaps towards creating tools that make engineers so much more efficient. So I think that, we will build more, but there is like a genuine, it's funny that the people building the automation are the ones that are most likely to get automated first. I think it's cosmic justice. It only makes sense that we are, producing the kind of data that allows us to train models that will impact our work the most when it comes to just like coding and that stuff. So I think those 3 will be impacted in a major way.
That was Nikola Mrkšić, co-founder and CEO of PolyAI. Coming up, I'm going to be joined by the chief executive and co-founder of RobinAI, a tech company shaking up the legal industry with AI-powered contract software. That is next. This is Bloomberg. Well, as far as AI uptake goes, the legal industry appears to be one sector cautiously embracing the technology. Its potential to reduce costs and improve efficiency is clear and becoming clearer, but is it appropriate for an industry where privacy and accuracy are, of course, paramount? I'm joined now by Richard Robinson, founder and CEO of RobinAI. It's a tech startup that develops contract software for the legal sector with clients including KPMG, Pfizer and UBS. And worth noting that you guys founded in 2019, before ChatGPT's release, of course, in 2022. And you're a former corporate lawyer as well. Richard, thank you so much for coming to the studio. Thanks. And we're going to focus on the legal sector, a big part of the industry and the economy here in the UK, of course, and you're growing at pace. Talk to us about what the internal legal teams at some of your clients, whether it's UBS or Pfizer or KPMG or others, how are your products, whether it's contracts, because you do contracts, you do policy, supply chains, how is it changing the way those teams work?
Well, I think the biggest challenge these teams had was when something goes wrong. I mean, they staff their teams based on day-to-day business activities. But then something happens that demands significantly more resource, like maybe they're doing M&A, maybe there's a data breach, maybe there's a new regulation from the president that nobody expected. And that means people have to look at thousands of documents or thousands of policies, and they just don't have the people on staff to handle that kind of work without lots of stress, late nights. And I think what our software is really helping them do is to manage those workloads with way more efficiency, because they have a new colleague. They have an AI lawyer in the team who can basically do a lot of that difficult, time-consuming work for them. That's really the best thing we're seeing.
What does it mean then for external law firms? So some of the firms that you used to work for, Clifford Chance, for example, what does it mean for them ultimately?
Well, I think initially it's going to mean that they get a lot less work, to be completely honest. There's work that people used to give to law firms that was very profitable for the firm. I mean, when I was in corporate law, big transactions, M&A, discovery, this is where we made a lot of our cash, because you can throw junior lawyers at late nights reading documents. And I think that kind of work we're just not going to find going to law firms anymore. In fact, I don't think we're going to find people doing that work anymore, because technology, specifically tools like RobinAI, they are optimized for reading thousands and thousands of pages of documents. They never get bored. They can read multiple languages. So I think you're going to see a real reduction in the types of work that go out to external law firms.
So what does that, if a lot of that grunt work is being done then by your AI products, what does that mean for paralegals? What does it mean for junior lawyers entering the workforce?
Well, I think it's
Are they in trouble?
I think they're going to find it's way more fun. They don't have to do a lot of the things that people like me had to do when we were early in the industry, which honestly are not that enjoyable. And what we're seeing is that AI isn't really replacing a whole job. Some people talk about it as middleware, because you still need a person to set the direction, to write the prompts. You still need a person to check the output, to put a gift wrap on the box, so to speak. But AI handles the heavy lifting in between. And so I think we're still going to need junior lawyers, still going to need paralegals. These guys are really good. But they're not going to have to do some of the most difficult parts of the work that they used to.
But that's for now, Rich. You know, because you build on Anthropic as a model. You know how quickly they and others are advancing and how quickly this technology is advancing. If we get to AGI, artificial general intelligence, within the next 5 years or so, that changes everything, doesn't it? Take a step back. In 5 years' time, is this net positive for jobs in the legal system? Do you create new jobs, or is it a net loss, do you think? Honestly.
Well, I honestly think we're going to create more jobs overall. If you think about it, the number of lawyers in the world has never matched the demand for lawyers. That's why it takes so long to get one. That's why they're so expensive. It's why most businesses, if they have a legal problem, they don't get an answer for days. It's not because their lawyers don't want to. We don't have enough of them. There's new regulations coming into force every day, and they're more complicated than they used to be. We need more legal help. It's just not necessarily going to come from adding more people exponentially. We can now use AI to give us significantly more leverage. So I think more people in the industry, but actually we're going to serve significantly more people because we have this superpower from AI.
What does it mean in terms of the culture at some of these firms? Billable hours, does that still exist in 2-3 years' time? And do you keep the skills if you're putting a lot more emphasis on AI? Can lawyers remain sharp?
I think that the billable hour has survived lots and lots of technological change. I find it difficult to believe that this is going to be the end in the next 2 to 3 years. I think what you'll find is law firms and professional services, they'll become more and more boutique, more and more specialized. I don't think that you'll have these firms with 3,500 lawyers in 36 different offices, because ultimately a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the language, a lot of the grunt work, as we talked about, we can use AI to help us. And so I think these firms will be much smaller, more bespoke, and the skills that these people will need to have are about negotiation, strategy, people management, client management, these things that we don't want to rely on AI to do, but we do want people to
That's the defensible part of the job.
I think so.
Within the legal sphere. Richard Robertson, fantastic, really smart analysis, really interesting in terms of the future project, or future picture when it comes to the legal system and the legal sector as AI makes its advance. Richard Robertson, founder and CEO of RobinAI. Coming up, how should companies and their employees then best position for that AI-powered future? In terms of skills, we speak to Euan Blair, CEO of tech upskilling platform Multiverse. That is next. This is Bloomberg. So it's pretty clear that AI is and will transform the way we work. But how should workers then and their employers position for success? I spoke to Euan Blair, the CEO of upskilling platform Multiverse.
Interestingly, and we're seeing this, the companies that are able to move fastest are not the ones spending huge amounts of money on applied AI engineers, but they're the ones who are basically saying this is an everyone problem. Right? It's not about technologists, it's actually about how do we get people in non-technology roles all in on using AI.
Are policymakers underestimating the impact that AI, particularly AGI, so artificial general intelligence, human-level intelligence, will have on the labour market?
Potentially, although if you were to ask anyone in government in this country, they'd all say we're taking it incredibly seriously and here are the things that we're trying to do about it. I think, you know, again, trying to forecast exactly when we hit AGI and what it's capable of is a sort of dangerous game. I do think if I look at this through a British lens, we're not going to win the race on foundational models. It's going to be won in America, maybe to an extent China. We are not going to be able to build data centers faster than anyone else. Our energy costs are simply too high. But what we can do is make it our mission to have the most AI native workforce be the fastest adopters of the technology being built. And that's where we can see massive productivity gains. It's where we can kind of change the economic calculation for Britain today. And I think that's where policymakers should be really focusing on, because also it will mitigate a lot of the job displacement that might happen if we can take people on the journey. So it really comes back to skills and training.
But you talk about reskilling and you're upskilling workforces, and part of that is around efficiency gains, part of that then is around the question of ROI and return on investment for your clients and for corporates all over the world. What is the time frame? If you get the adoption that you that you see as the prescription, what is the time frame that we're looking at in terms of seeing those real efficiencies at a macro level start to accrue?
So macro level is interesting. First, an individual kind of organization level, whether you're an NHS trust or whether you're an enterprise company, within 6 to 12 months of training your people, you can start to see pretty meaningful gains, right? We've had finance teams double the speed at which they process invoices while reducing the error rate by 40%. We've had one of the UK's largest NHS trusts see double the number of patients in its acute care ward as a result of actually implementing smart practices around data and AI and training people. So you can see those quite quickly. I think for it to kind of translate into a macro layer, we just need more people doing it and faster. And the will from companies is certainly there. I think the will from policymakers is there. It's just now sort of getting on with, let's get people trained. At this point, it's less important what you know, it is more important what you can do.
Okay, that was Euan Blair, founder and CEO of Multiverse, on adopting, integrating and upskilling the workforce in this new AI-changed workforce into the future, of course. In our next episode, we will take a deep dive into the new technology revolutionising drug discovery, from AI all the way through to quantum. AI, of course, helping pharma companies search for the next wave of life-saving treatments. We're going to ask if quantum computing as well can help speed up that process in terms of drug discovery, and whether or not regulators are behind the curve in terms of the trials, the clinical trials process, and whether that needs to be rethought as well. Catch that episode on September the 12th here on Bloomberg Tech Europe. Now, the open trade is up next. Back to the markets on a day we're leading up to retail sales and, of course, that meeting in Alaska between the presidents of the US and Russia. This is Bloomberg.